Good evening. I'm the head of the Jericho Development Review Board. And welcome for coming and welcome for participating in the meeting tonight. We'll go over the agenda, the rules of the procedure, interested party rules. Then we're going to swear everybody in. We ask that you sign in so that we know who is here and why that's important. There's no old business. We have two items of new business. One is a request to the DRB by Paul and Colleen Palmer for site plan review for the construction of a parking lot and access at 78 Vermont 15.
87, excuse me.
87?
Yeah.
The second item we have is a request by Martha Prince for a sketch plan review of a minor subdivision at 150 Sea River Road in the Village Zoning District. We have some to approve, and then we'll deliberative session. So you sign in. Sign in. So for everybody, make sure you sign in so that we know who's here. Appreciate that. If you're online, make sure that you have sent the moderator your information so that we can register you as easier. This proceeding will be conducted in an orderly manner with the DRB rules and procedure. Written copies of the rules are available, so we'll walk you through what you need to know. We don't need a copy to participate. Next item is any conflict of interest or ex parte communication for members? No. No? Okay, no for me. And then I'm going to talk a minute about interested persons. We go through this every meeting just to define it in terms of if there's follow-on legal activity, we know who can and can't be involved. So interested persons are those under Vermont law who have a right to appeal an actual decision of the Jericho Zoning Administration, the DRB. They can include the applicant, or if the applicant does not own the property, the person owning title to the property, a person owning or occupying property in the immediate neighborhood of a property that is subject to any zoning decision or act, who can demonstrate a physical or environmental impact of the person's interests under the criteria reviewed, and who alleges that the decision or act will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. Any 10 persons, voters or landowners, who by signed petition to the DRB allege that the decision or act, if confirmed, will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. These petitioners must designate one person to serve as representative. This is important because many people may be interested, and only those people who are defined interested persons may appeal a decision. If an interested person fails to make a timely appeal, they are bound by the decision. And become an interested person, you must participate in a hearing. If you had to have been here or been on. Only those interested persons who have participated may appeal a decision. If there were to be an appeal or work with you tonight, the DRB does not determine who is being approved. That is part of the appeal process. But you need to establish who participated. We ask you to sign in on the sign-in sheets or provide your contact information if you're online, or you may email that contact information to us. Secondly, when you do speak, we ask that you tell us that you need loud and clear so that we could record it in minutes. All right, wait for Chris to come right back. The first item is a request to the DRB by Paul and Colleen Palmer for a site plan review for the construction of the parking lot access at 87 Vermont Route 15. So Chris, can I just ask you to explain the difference between a conditional use review and a site plan review?
A conditional site plan review is a limited criteria that we end up reviewing, and essentially it's a use that is acceptable to the zone district, where a conditional use is something that has a higher review standard say if you had an auto body shop or things along those lines, you want to make sure that it doesn't have an adverse impact on the surrounding environment from its operational standpoint, things like that. This falls into the site plan review, which we are looking at landscaping, lighting, circulation, and parking.
All right, thanks. So who's going to represent for the item? Okay, why don't you come forward and say your name?
Carl, I have the site plan to share.
Okay.
If you have the plans you want shared, let me know.
My name is Carl Marchessault. I work for O'Leary Burke Civil Associates, representing Palmer Maple. This project's been ongoing for a long time. We worked with the town, went through probably about 10 iterations. It was our understanding that the town didn't want cars directly pull into Old Pump Road. They also made it very clear that they wanted circulation of some sort, and so that cars would actually go in, turn around, and come back. We try to place it in the closest.
I'll ask you to speak up.
Yeah.
I am having trouble.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. We wanted to put the parking lot as close in proximity to the business itself. And we show a path that is, directly in line with the facility that is being utilized currently for creamies and ice cream and all that sort of stuff. So the reason the parking lot is, essentially where it is that's the open area, and Von Turkovich owns the land. So we want to try to minimize any impacts to it, because those lines that are shown were some septic areas on some other plan, and he asked that we sort of honor that line that you see that's dashed on the plan in case something else ever happened there. Really for us, we want to put some landscaping. We want to take about 12 inches of material out and put in 12 inches of gravel so that we have a riding surface and, basically circulation so that people can come in, use the facility, and get back out. That kind of serves the purpose of some of the other plans that we showed, that because the real problem is cars parking on Old Pump Road and inconveniencing the neighbors and causing hardships with the town. So that's why we're here tonight to talk about. And we show 54 parking spaces, and that's pretty much it.
Can you show us the lots?
Yeah, that dash line.
Yeah, so what's the size of the property that you bring it?
I mean, this is a line that we were told by Von Turkovich to sort of honor, which is
No, the lots, the defined lots.
Oh, well, we're not doing anything with that. We're just showing the parking lot.
So you're putting this on the same lot as the post office is on?
Yeah, that's all. Yes.
That's all one lot.
That's my understanding, yes.
Well, from the town standpoint, we show that basically a subdivision was done. There's 2 additional lots off of Old Pump, the Mac Pump, the map viewer. You want to look at that.
But this is not the creation of.
I'm sorry?
This is not the creation of a new lot.
No, we're not creating any new lots.
You're putting this on the same lot. It's very important. You're putting this on the same lot as the post office.
No.
Yeah.
So the post office.
Hey, wait, people, he's asking,
He's representing.
the
I
representative.
asked him for a lot layout. He said that it was not available. He told me that this was one big lot.
So Colleen and Paul might know the answer to this, but my understanding, I thought it was one lot, but Paul Turkovich owns it, I know that. If there's a dividing line, I'm not aware.
Yeah, so I know the post office is on a particular lot, which is leased to the United States Postal Service. The Von Turkoviches asked us not to encroach on that lot. That's why the parking lot is where it is. They've also, in previous years, applied for subdivision and septic field. They still, may do that in the future. They don't know. So they asked us to keep outside of those dotted lines in the middle of the field that Carl pointed out.
So what is the size of the lot that you're putting this on?
It's on the site plan, and I apologize, I don't know that number. Because I just, it's a big lot, but not. I'm looking on the plan right now. So yeah.
We need you to get that. So can you take us through what are the dimensions of the parking lot in terms of space of both sides and gaps between?
So the emphasis is the LOD, the limited disturbance. We're occupying basically 0.65 acres of disturbance for that layout. So there's a no off to the left that says LOD, limited disturbance, 0.65 acres. And then we're creating about 0.5 acres of new impervious. And the total impervious, including the post office lot, is 0.8. The reason that's important is because we reached out to the stormwater division of the state to ensure that a permit wasn't required. So that's why there's really no stormwater components. If you have a parcel that has existing impervious, the threshold is 1 acre. So we're at 0.8, including the lot, the post office in the front, and then our parking lot that we show being 0.5 acres. So parking spaces are typically 9 by 18. So it would essentially be 19 spaces across the bottom, basically multiplied by 9. So essentially, right around 190 or something, 190 feet. But the emphasis is really the 1 acre, just because we don't even need a CGP. It's called a construction general permit. If we're under an acre of disturbance, we really don't need a state permit. We're not really striving for that. I think the emphasis here is we're trying to settle like an issue that's existing with Old Pump Road, people parking on the road.
Take us through the sizing of that many spaces, 54 spaces.
So I talked to Paul and Colleen, and we think that generally in a case where the facility is really busy, he's had upwards of 35 to 40 spaces. So really we're trying to solve a problem. So we want to have more spaces so that in the worst case scenario, when there's the most amount of people, we don't have people parking on Old Pump Road. So we arrived at that simply by honoring the lines on both sides and trying to maximize the number of spaces, and then taking a step back, talking to the town and also my clients about what is appropriate and what will solve the problem long term. I know there's been some comments about, does it really have to be that big? It certainly would cost less money if we were to phase it, but I think the emphasis here is we don't want people to be inconvenienced by people parking on Old Pump Road. So it'd be better to have more spaces, we think, and just do it all at once.
Okay. So you have a blow up of that part of Old Pump Road. Is this the only drawing you have?
That ortho is basically the intersection of Route 15 and Old Pump Road, and that's sort of the overall.
That's the north side of Old Pump. So how are you going to close off all of that existing parking on the north side of Old Pump?
I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying.
Existing parking.
All of existing parking along.
So
where those you pull in and those spots to the right are they already closed off?
Well, these spots right here, they show as existing spots, right? This is where people are parking.
Yeah.
And so there's the utility pole right here, and then there's people pulling off here. So it's to alleviate all this congestion instead of going down here from Google and entrance.
So, but will they still be able to park there where they can park today?
Right here, we're leaving that as is. So technically those could still be utilized, but we can definitely talk about that if we think it's necessary. We weren't going to do anything there. We were going to put a path behind it so that they weren't going to be in the direct trajectory of cars, that utilize that space now.
And where are the handicap spots?
Well, it's gravel, so if the board would like, we could put signs, but
you have existing handicap spots?
No,
for that.
We don't. Do you have handicap spots? No, we don't have handicap spots now.
And how many spots do you have south of the Old Pump Road?
Six.
This area here.
And none of them are handicapped.
We could easily make those handicap or one or two.
Um,
So the one thing with the handicap though is because our building is so old and we have not done any improvements to it. The handicap, it's not handicap accessible anyway. I mean, how we've handled that in the past is people would call us and we would walk things out to them. We deliver it to them.
we have state, we have got town rules about. Every so many parking spots. Okay.
But we're definitely willing, I think what Paul's saying is we're definitely willing to put signs up to denote, handicap. But I agree with Paul. I mean, the best option would be to utilize those spaces on the south side because those are the closest proximity to the business.
How are you gonna handle the pedestrian traffic crossing Old Pump Road?
Well, there's discussion about that with the town about whether, like a crosswalk with some sort of, activated control mechanism, but we're unsure because right now we know that on the northeast or, library, whatever the school, that some people do travel down Route 15. I mean, Route 15 is obviously a busy road, it's a state highway, and we feel like it would be better served to try to focus on Old Pump and park people there and then just cross Old Pump instead of crossing Route 15. But we're certainly not opposed to, the current conditions. If people want to park somewhere else and walk along Route 15. So
Where's that bicycle parking? Where's that bicycle?
we could put a bike rack in. I mean, we don't show one, but certainly that wouldn't be a problem. We could probably put it wherever you want. I can tell you right now, I'm definitely not opposed to it, but we have a bike rack at our office and never had a bike in it. But, that's.
Gotta break that trend.
Got to break that trend. Somebody's got to get an expensive bike, I guess, and put it in there. Or any bike.
Are you willing to close off those spots, those parallel spots? Because what you got now, you've got those people backing up both directions. And then some people are going to have trucks sitting there. And then they're going to try and come out of that driveway. They're not going to be able to see down that road. No one's going to be able to see them pulling out of that parking lot. So if you still have cars parking there, you're making things worse. So you're not allowed to make things worse. So I thought you guys were proposed closing off those spots in the north.
I think there's 8 or 9.
There would be 7 with that situation there.
Yeah. I don't think we're opposed to doing that. If that means we can get approved, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, as long as I have access to the parking lot year round, then I'm not opposed.
You talk about the maintenance of the parking lot and the road. This is on a separate property from the owner's property.
Yes.
That we're talking about. You just talked about you're essentially hitting a threshold acreage so that you don't have to get a stormwater permit.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the stormwater management of the site? You're creating a very large impervious surface and not surface. Obviously, we're not thinking catch basins, but how is water going to drain?
So right now, everything drains to the low point, essentially in the west, well, basically the northern corner, and everything is going to continue to flow to that northern corner. We were talking about creating a depression, but then when I found out that really we didn't have to do any stormwater because we don't need a permit, we were going to replace 12 inches of native material with 12 inches of gravel and just let it flow in the same trajectory that it's flowing now.
What are the maintenance agreements?
So we don't have anything formalized yet, but it's to their best interest to keep it super nice, obviously, because they want people to utilize the facility, to go to the facility. And obviously it's seasonal, so nobody's going to utilize the parking lot in the winter, which kind of alleviates the concern with plowing and all that kind of stuff. So we feel like minimization, I guess. Minimization is replacing native with gravel so that we don't really impact the floodplain is the emphasis.
The store.
Not necessarily that we're certain yet, just because we're gonna have to do some you know, some state permitting as well, and we have to get an Act 250 amendment, which I don't think. I mean, I think everybody must know that, but that black line that's shown on the plan is the floodplain, and then there's an inset on the bottom right of that plan that shows said AE zone, and we're not impacting that. I mean, we're not going to do any disturbance within the confines of that zone.
Is that a buffer line, or is the actual floodplain line?
That's the line, yeah.
Is there a buffer or an offset requirement for that?
For the floodplain?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. You know, there's usually what.
We looked it up on the ANR, and we didn't see any associated buffers.
Is the store open in the wintertime? Is the store open?
Yes.
Where are people in a park wintertime?
Well, we still have 6 spaces along the south side of Old Pump in front of our barn, and parking there.
Oh.
So for the store, you know, and when we do have preemies, that's why I said if we do preemie events through the winter, which we only do 1 weekend a month minus January, if I can utilize that parking lot for that, that's fine. I would get rid of the 7 on the north side. Otherwise, those 7 there and the 6 on the other side would probably be enough for winter event. So
you have 7 on the north, 6 by the building, and then 54 in the parking lot. Okay. So it is higher than 16. Higher than 16. Okay. Cool.
There are no natural resource overlays.
No, they're all outside those areas.
And we need 2 more things. I'd like to go over the planting schemes, and I'd like to see the profile for the road.
Which you want to see first, Jeff?
Let's stick with the driveway permit.
I'm sorry?
Let's see the driveway profile. The driveway profile.
So the profile down below shows about a 23% grade existing. I went to see Colleen and Paul about a year and a half ago, and actually drove down in there with my pilot just to see really what it felt like, just because it's all grass. And what we're proposing is a 10% grade with a 15-foot 3%, so that you have a queuing length at the top. And because the circulation is
So the first coming off there,
yes,
going on there, the first 15%.
First 15 feet, 3%.
One car length, 3%.
Yes.
And then it drops.
Then it goes to 10%.
And then it goes to 10%, which is our max, right?
Yeah. So the emphasis there is so that the car can be at the top, observe left and right movements, and then make their move, and then the next person can go. Just from being there, because I have been there several times just to observe the traffic, so that we could come up with, you know, a solution. Which, like I said, this is the 10th version of said solution, working with the town and whatnot. And what we've witnessed essentially is, like you noted, I mean, and the town made very aware, you know, that they prefer not, you know, people backing up onto the road, which is how we came.
Could you talk louder, please?
We came up, sorry about that. The 10% to 3% stacks up 1 car, and we feel like everybody that comes into the facility is going to be able to observe the entire parking lot. So when people want to leave, they're going to see that car at the top, and they can choose to, you know, go up to 10% and wait. And I don't think it's going to make that much difference, but it's really going to be really sort of 1 car at a time. And we feel it's going to leave, and then, you know, the next person sort of is going to go up if there is actually a queuing. But just because the whole parking lot is going to be able to be observed from the roadway, we feel that sort of alleviates the concern with, you know, having to do really much of anything else. And the other thing is, if we increase the queuing length, we're just going to put more fill in that area. Because that's really the only area that we're really not going to balance. And we are going to talk to the state about doing a balance, because our emphasis is to try not to impact that area, whether it's plain or not. I mean, we want to minimize impact as much as we can.
What is the site distance for that new access?
Well, the site distance is gonna be, oh, actually, I can grab a scale and tell you, it's,
Let me go back to, oops.
like it's about 280.
What's the spec
What's the specs?
for tight distances?
It's all based on miles per hour, and I don't know what the specific spec is, based on miles per hour per distance.
But 280 is a lot.
Because we're making the situation, further away than the existing, we actually didn't really.
So it's 280 feet from that driveway to the 15.
That's an approximate. I mean, I'd like to get a real scale on a plan that's to scale, but I mean, Chris has got it right there.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, it's basically from where the arrow is here to the beginning of the curved area here is 275 feet.
That's pretty close.
And how far is it from the edge
With a pen.
of the crosswalk to the 50?
In here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have it's gonna be a guesstimate, because we don't have a crosswalk there. It is 150.
So if somebody's pulling off Route 15, it's 8 car lengths before you get to that crosswalk.
Approximately.
So even if there were a couple of cars backed up at the crosswalk, you still have 5 or 6 car lengths for
Yeah.
people to come off 15.
I mean, we'd love to have a way to, make sure that most people, I think, are observant of the speed and the situation, but you can't control everybody, but I do think that's a pretty good sight distance, like you mentioned.
Okay, you talked about working with somebody, talking to somebody in the town. Is that the road foreman?
We've been back and forth with just, email sketches to Chris to try to get in here to see your nice homes, so.
So road foreman's seeing it, he realizes it's gonna be a curb cut access. It's gonna be needed. Jacob hasn't raised any issues or concerns. I mean, his purview is gonna be the curb cut access, making sure that it's proper interfaces. The only other discussion that's really happened is they're gonna repave the apron, which I believe ends like after the access to the post office. Now, if this is approved, they would extend the apron down past, excuse me, the new curb cut, just because it provides better maintenance for the asphalt maintenance. Because once you get to dirt and asphalt, that transition erodes quicker. So that if there's going to be more traffic, you want to extend the apron, as well as by extending the apron, we can now paint a crosswalk and delineate it much better than putting up a sign and hopefully people paying attention. So,
Could you repeat, you extending the apron to where?
I didn't hear what.
Where are you extending the apron to?
It hasn't been defined, but it's going to be after the proposed entrance.
After the proposed entrance.
I'm sorry?
After the proposed entrance.
Yes, that's the thought. So,
After the crosswalk.
That would be after the crosswalk, right? Okay.
yes.
After the entrance, which is nice.
Could we go to the planting plan?
Yep.
Zoom into that. You want to talk about like what we're planning or?
Yes, how you're gonna shield this from the road. Yes, how you're gonna shield. The plant, what you're gonna.
So because there's a pretty good view, we at first proposed some big trees, and then we decided we better do rhododendrons just because I think people want to preserve the view. So we don't want to keep them low. So that's why we went back to rhododendrons. And then if there was a height issue with seeing over them for the views, we could either cut them down or put new stuff in, years later. But rhododendron can be managed. It's not like putting in a big maple or something like that. Not that we're opposed to putting in maples. We're just worried about people hindering the view. So we're doing low-lying plants.
What's the green wiggly line around the edge of the left?
There's some brush there, some brush that we're gonna have to remove some brush. That black line's a tree line. And the green will be sort of the new tree line, but it's not real thick. It's just brush. But that green line just shows, cutting that area out to construct the parking lot.
As proposed, there's a 7-foot change between the existing road height and the parking lot height. So it'll give you an idea.
Look at over the car.
Yeah, the elevation, the elevation change. So it's not having a rhododendron or things like that. Because there is a bit of a view towards Mansfield. So
We're not opposed.
You reviewed the landscaping plan, have you done?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We're definitely not opposed to putting bigger species, higher, but that was considered and we did go back and forth. And that's why we decided on a low line.
The only recommendation that basically has come in is to have the planting list checked by the conservation committee to make sure that the plant material is stuff that they support, because we're dealing with invasives and everything now.
Sure.
And so, but the intent would be, I can't believe rhododendron or hydrangea is going to raise a problem, but we just want to double check on them.
Of course, I made sure when Carl was talking about plantings that it was going to be pollinator friendly and that it was going to be a lower type bush, and that it was not invasive.
And what is the spec the driveway is being built to?
12 inches of gravel.
What is it?
Oh, it's 24. Oh, yeah, 24 is standard aisle. Unless you're in Winooski and they'll let you do 20, but I'm not a big fan.
Any more questions from the board?
Is this a one way, like you go in, circle around, and come back out, or is it just you go wherever?
The way it's situated, we're hoping people are going to go counterclockwise, but I think it's really the reason I wanted 24-foot aisles and not 20 is so if you see a parking spot like where it says 13 and you decide that's where you're going to go, there's nobody coming because you're going to have great visibility the way it's laid out. You're just going to go to that spot where there's a spot open. So it would be kind of worthless to put arrows on gravel. So obvious. So that's why we didn't show arrows.
Are there any proposed curb stops or anything?
So we're going to put wheel stops in the center because we don't want people driving through where it says the 13, like right there. So those are wheel stops. So concrete wheel stops really to prevent people from driving across. So they have to sort of maintain a circular pattern.
Chris, I was looking at the land records. It looks like the DRB approved 2 lots in 2000 for this 2-lot subdivision, and there was already 2 lots approved before that. Okay, so there are multiple lots at the town level, but they're not recognized in the Act 50.
I know that the town recognizes. I know the town shows additional lots.
You said that the town did approve a lot.
Yeah, one of the issues we end up having is like the assessor, since all lots are contiguous and affiliated, they send out one bill and they treat it as one lot.
We call them sub-parcels.
Yeah. But there are additional lots, and they give you the exact size of the lot that the parking lot is supposed to go on. I'd have to go back to 2002 when that lot was created to find out. I just don't have it in front of me.
So we recognize those lots, but I don't think the state does.
I don't know.
It's not in the file. It's not in the file. Not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
No, we had to get permission from the Von Turkovich. So when they said, my clients talked to them and
They're just gonna do an easement? Is that an easement or is it not a lot?
they were fine as is with no easement, just that's where it's going to be.
Just a rental agreement. It's like an easement.
Yeah.
The Von Turkoviches have been part of the conversation for a while since they're the owners, and they've talked with the town as well as the Palmers, and they have as much interest in seeing a bad situation turn into a better situation So that's what they've offered their property, and whatever compensation or agreement that the Von Turkovich and the Palmers have made is their business. So, but they're supportive of the application.
Yeah, we have to obtain that. Obviously, we come and see you guys.
No lighting proposed here, right? Because there's no after
Close it.
dark operation. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there's no utilities, no water, electric.
And there will be no off-season vehicle storage down here.
You're not going to store any vehicles down there? No.
Anything else on board?
The only other question I had, I think we brought up before, this is just to serve the current use. It's not planned expansion, not that you can. But I just gotta ask, you're gonna have 5 cleaning windows or something, I don't know.
No modifications to the business, just to appease a certain situation, existing situation.
Anything else, Chris, before I start up?
I don't think I have anything else. I think you should explain to the public how the process is going to work.
Okay, so we're going to open it up to comments and questions, questions from the public. The questions will be to the board, not to the presenter. We'll collect the questions, and then we will go through all the questions at the end and go through the answers. So this is open to anybody who lives in Jericho. We'd like to know if speaking, if you're in Jericho, if you're in a butter, we'd like to have you say that you're in a butter. That's information too. You're welcome to speak. And if somebody has already, said your piece, might not say it twice. We don't need to hear it a second time. So if you want to, certainly we'll do that. And then we'll go to online. So who would like to, anybody like to?
Sure, you can go back and say the people are going to come. So
Ask your question. You actually said who you are. Just raise your hand. Tell us your name.
you'll have to come forward.
Come forward.
Yeah, so we can pick them up one mic.
Okay.
Jim Carew, 222 Old Pump Road. I bought the property just on the other side of the river. And my concern would be the flood zone. I live there, I know best. When the spring waters come, I've seen water all the way to Route 15. And my concern would be you guys add parking or bring in the entrance, anything building that field up could create water to come back further to my home, and I would take on water. That's my biggest concern. My second concern is I agree with you that any parking on Pump Road would be a hazard. It'd make matters worse. It's not 7 parking. I live there. It's more like between both sides of the roads, it's more like 15 to 20. And if those people are packed in there and backing out like they do every day, and then there's people trying to come down your new driveway and come out of that driveway, it's going to make matters worse. So if anything, that would have to go away, in my opinion. Parking on Pump Road. It's just ridiculous. We live there every day. You can't get by. And I don't mean anything to the Palmers. I understand they're trying to run a business, but we trying to get home too. And so, but my biggest concern is the flood. Right now, I've never taken on water, ever. And if that field gets disturbed, can you guys guarantee that I won't take on water? That's my concern.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Castor. I live on Old Pump Road, half mile down from Route 15. And I'm just curious as to, I understand putting in the parking lot was to alleviate parking on the road. And I'm just curious as to why the parking lot has a Route 15 number to it, proposed number, why that entrance to the parking lot wouldn't already come onto a paved road with sidewalk and crossing, as opposed to dumping people back into Old Pump Road and creating more pedestrians on Old Pump Road. There will still be people coming that use the sidewalk. And it seems like you would take advantage of something that's already existing if that parking lot exit, if to be built, would dump onto Route 15, then Old Pump Road. And as a follow-up, if it would cause too much inconvenience or a hazard or risk on Route 15, why is that not the same consideration for the walkers on Pump Road?
So your proposal would be to have an access north of the post office?
My question is, why wouldn't you take advantage of already existing infrastructure if you're putting in a parking lot to alleviate parking on the road and not create more pedestrian traffic?
I tell you, our regulations and the rules say that we should move traffic onto secondary roads as opposed to having additional entrances. It's some kind of traffic safety thing. But we always try to encourage everybody to, not have, for example, another entrance right across from the school onto 15, because people coming down 15 just have to deal with that complexity. So this is consistent with.
Well, decreasing traffic risk is increasing pedestrian risk.
Thank you.
Yes, my name's Hans Husey. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of several residents of Old Pump Road, including Connie Marks, Leslie Dunn, and others. Can we bring up the site plan for a second? Our group has a host of concerns about this project. First of all, with respect to pedestrian traffic, we're going to have pedestrians crossing here from the sidewalk. You're going to have pedestrians crossing here. You're going to have pedestrians leaving these cars and coming across. Invariably, people walking up from the parking lot. Some of them are going to come up here. We've heard nothing from the Palmers about how they plan to stop people from parking along Old Pump Road. So we're still going to have pedestrians walking along the road to cars here. The people who come to the greeting stand are going to park here, here, and along the road first. The parking lot will be last resort because it's farthest away. So unless someone can demonstrate how they're going to stop people from parking along this side of Old Pump Road, the parking lot doesn't alleviate the problem, it just makes it worse. These parking spots should never have been approved. You're under your own ordinance, you're not supposed to allow people to back into traffic on a public road. These parking lots here should never have been approved. They also back into a public road. It's very frequent that I pull onto this road, you have people backing out from both sides. So unless, at a minimum, the board should require the parking lots here and spaces here be eliminated and not be allowed to be used. Also, there has to be some way to discourage people from parking along Old Pump Road, because once again, you're just going to make a bad situation worse. People aren't going to use this parking lot. It's further away. You're simply not going to go down there. There should be some type of barrier or fence along here to keep a large group of people that gather in that yard from bleeding out into the road. Happens all the time. Little kids run out. Their parents are eating their creamy, having a chat. They're playing. They're running back and forth across the road. It happens here, happens all up and down the road. All the time, you're coming down Route 15, you go to pull onto Old Pump Road, somebody stops dead in the middle of the road to drop somebody off because there's a long line. They don't want to have to wait longer, so they drop all their people off. They're stopped dead in the road. The people are running across the road, and you're stopped here with your back end hanging out in Route 15, ready to get clipped by the next truck that comes along. You can be backed up 3 or 4 cars there all the time because of the people stopping, the people backing out, people pulling here. They stop their pickup truck, they drop the tailgate. The kids sit on the tailgate, the parents stand in front of them. Half the road is gone. There's been several instances where cars are parked all the way along this section of the road, and there's been an emergency vehicle that's responded to a call here. Once the emergency vehicle is parked there, nobody can get through. The road is blocked. This happens not infrequently during times of high use. I've heard it said that they sell as many as 2,000 preemies, and if you figure slightly fewer than 2 people a car, that's 750 cars coming and going, and it's a limited number of hours, like 3 hours in a day, that all this traffic happens. And if you're someone coming home from work, which is when a lot of this peak use goes on, you're having to run a gauntlet of cars backing out, people walking across, people walking down the middle of the road, completely oblivious to the fact that it's a road, treating it like a parking lot, and it's completely unsafe. I know it's been said that there hasn't been an accident there yet. That's good luck. It's pure good luck. There's going to be an accident. Someone's going to get hurt here, and the town is on notice. The Palmers are on notice, and someone's going to be looking at a lawsuit somewhere down the road, because I can't believe that sooner or later that's not going to happen. You're going to have the same thing with people coming up out of this parking lot. They're going to want to get in the line. There's going to be 3 cars coming down here waiting to get on to 15. Someone's going to pull out and block the road. You're going to have gridlock. There's going to be no one there taking care of the fact to keep people from coming out there. If I read this correctly, I can't read the elevation, but I don't know if for the floodplain, if the FEMA line was used, and I'm going to ask Beth Demas to speak to this. She litigated with the Von Turkoviches over the location of the flood line. The FEMA line is not the barrier of the floodplain. I think it was 613 feet. 615. Was 6 which? 615. 615 feet. So if any part of this is less than 615 feet, you're in the floodplain and you can't put it there. And finally, this business requires a conditional use permit, and I've gone through the file. I can't find any permit for the business in the first instance. I understand that's not part of the meeting tonight, but that's a serious issue. You have a huge business like this operating without the requisite permits.
That's your money's worth.
I'm Eileen Haupt. I live at 59. Eileen Haupt, Haupt. And I live at 59 Old Pump Road, which is 2 doors down from the Palmers. There's just one house in between us. Up until recently, that was used as a business. So we were the residents who were impacted by this business. And for years, neighbors down Old Pump Road have asked us how we tolerate the parking situation. And honestly, we tolerate it because we love the business. I love the business. And I couldn't think of a better business to have like in my neighborhood than a creamy store. And it makes me happy seeing people enjoy their ice cream with friends and family, and it adds vitality to the village. I mean, it's all positive, but unfortunately, these customers come in cars. And so it's not the business we have a problem with, it's the amount of traffic that's generated. And it has overwhelmed our once quiet neighborhood. It has caused a safety problem, which others can speak to, because I'm going to speak about my experience as living on a parking lot. The situation has upset residents up and down the road, even a mile down the road, but they get to go home and enjoy their peace and quiet in their home. We don't. And it has been constant. And really, like I said, it used to be an occasional thing. It would be like a busy weekend. It would be a holiday weekend. And that was fine. It was some overflow. But this has become a daily occurrence. And last year was kind of the last straw. And actually what the last straw was the select board thinking that the solution to the parking problem on the east side of the street was to put no parking signs on the west side of the street where nobody parks and where homes are. Anyway, so during busy time, I'm going to try to keep it short because I want to get to the parking, actually, the new parking. During busy times, the overflow comes right across my house. It has been the only place that people can turn around to leave Old Pump Road is in our driveway. And we've put no parking, we put cones now. But what we've noticed is we use our front porch. It's 25 feet from the road, and we sit there. We enjoy that porch all summer long. And it's constant turning around in front of our house. So if they don't use our driveways, they do 3-point turns, backing up into the field, not far, and then pointing their cars at our house and then going. And it's constant. It's like one goes out, one comes in, one goes out, one comes in. And it's really ruined our peace. And along with that comes idling. It comes remote keys beeping all the time, doors slamming, the glare from the windows coming into our faces and our eyes. It's just really impacted us. And so you would think that I'd be supportive of a parking lot off the road, which in theory, I am. But I don't think it's fair that we have to overlook, I don't care if it's screening or not, we should not have to look across at a parking lot for a business that doesn't have adequate parking. And we're still going to hear, cars on the gravel. There's still going to be beeping, and there's still going to be, it's just, this is a neighborhood. People live here. It's not, I understand it's in the Village Center District, but this is a neighborhood. We know each other. We know each other up and down the road. We feed each other's cats and stuff like that. It's not fair that we are being subjected to this. I just want to say it's not 3 hours. It's more than 3 hours for the impact. And some days are better. Actually, it's been kind of light this past week. You're talking about the invasive plants. I'm sorry, but the business has been invasive, and we're people. And this is not against the Palmers at all. And I just want to say, to their credit, we have had some concerns, and they have addressed them. They've been like, we've asked that their employees park further closer to the business, and they've done that. We've so I just want to say that that's our experience. To me, what is that I was looking at the description of the Village Center District. Village parking, particularly along Route 15, parking lots should not be permitted in front of buildings. Okay, well, we don't have a building here, but we've got a parking lot. There's not a building there, but the parking is still there. So the parking is the issue, not there. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting kind of trying to finish here. Let's see. So the things that when I was just perusing the regulations in the Village Center District: respect for traditional patterns, respect the character of the neighborhood, encourage use by pedestrians. These are the messages that I get. And parking on the side or rears of building. This does not encourage use by pedestrians. This encourages traffic. This encourages cars. That's not what I get from the Village Center District in the regulations. And let's see, pedestrian connections should continue to be encouraged. Significant growth is not appropriate to these neighborhoods. They're probably talking about developments, but and then any commercial use or residential use should be modest in scope. Well, to me, 54 parking spaces is not modest in scope. I could support a smaller parking lot closer to Route 15. I would not have an issue with that. Others people might, but I personally would not. And I just want to talk about the parking across the street. I don't want to see signs all the way down the road saying no parking either. One sign saying no creamy parking beyond this point, and there should be a place for people to turn around, because otherwise they're going to be turning around in front of our house because they can't park. So to me, and this pains me to say this because I have really loved business there, and I mean that sincerely. But to me, what's appropriate at that site is a business that only requires a few spaces, and that's it.
Yeah, my name's Anthony. I'm with it. 41.
Actually, can you come up here, please? I didn't hear your name.
Yeah. My name's Dan Tomino for the 41 Old Pump, and actually on this site map it says 3 Old Pump LLC. That's where we live.
Okay.
So we moved there in October.
You said 41.
Yes, that's what our address is. We moved in October, and we live
further along Route 15, kind of across from the Autosmith. So we were frequent to the Palmers for many years, and we moved in October in the off season when it wasn't busy. So it wasn't something that really thought about, a couple customers here and there. We had the Saturday, Sunday weekends in the wintertime. And then the busy season picks up, and something like we got used to a little bit, and just being a part of living in there. It's something, that adage of like, oh, we kind of probably assume this as we moved in, but not to this scope or magnitude. And so we understand too that the Palmers are running a business, and they don't control the customers and the customers' thoughts and where they park and how they park. My couple concerns is if there is a parking lot that is built across the road from me, I have huge concerns about the quality of life for me and living in my home, having a driveway come across from my house, looking into my front windows, just getting light glare constantly coming in. It's almost like people are on River Road and North Wilson Road, and there's that house right there. That's not something that I want. I don't want to have my blinds down constantly for a piece of privacy. And I also have people, constantly parking in my driveway. They probably think it's a continuation of the lots that are on the side of the barn. Again, that's nothing that's the Palmer's fault or doing. I have to have these ugly, big orange barrels in my driveway to let people know that they shouldn't park there. That's also a problem that I have to basically just kind of protect my sense of privacy. I don't want to lose that sense of privacy. It's a headache. And so if there is a need for a parking lot across the road, I love a different entrance somewhere that isn't across where I sit on my Sunday mornings, having a cup of coffee in the rocking chairs with my wife to just stare at a parking lot. I know that it's further down, but it's still there, and it takes away from that loss of life and that view. And so there also, as others have said, there needs to be something done about the parking that is along the road already, which is a nuisance and a problem. So that's my concerns. Thank you.
Can you show me which one's your house?
This one right here. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Demas. I live at 87 Old Pump Road. And I just want to give you this has been litigated before and
Actually, I need a copy as well.
Yeah,
For the record.
I look at it. 87 Old Pump Road. And we've appealed this to the environmental court because the environmental court found that the marking of
This would have been helpful earlier.
I just found it, I'm sorry. I had to go through my old, search like 2 hours on my computer to find it. I'd thrown away all my old photos. I didn't think I'd need them again. But in any event, the floodplain was determined by the environmental court to be the 615 line. The line that's marked in black as FEMA floodplain is not the actual floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. I also want to reiterate that the floodplain actually is at least the 615 line. There's photos that other people have brought. I had photos. That area floods. My concern is that this land has been used as a reservoir to absorb floodwaters. If there's impermeable fill put in the floodplain, that water is going to go somewhere. One place it's going to go is the horse farm. The horse farm used to flood all the time. It seems to me very unfair to build something in the floodplain that's going to push those floodwaters someplace else. I too like Palmer Maple, and I've been a regular customer for many years, but this just isn't acceptable. I don't want to go over everything everybody else has said, but I have pulled into Old Pump Road.
Where the 615.
Yeah, 615 line is somewhere right up in, I think it's here's 6. I don't have my 615 line is above. Yeah, this is 612. There's 614. I think that's 612, 611, 650 or 615 is right here. That's the 615. That's the 100-year floodplain. I don't think it's 100-year anymore. I think it's more like 5-year floodplain out there. And it's a reservoir for floodwaters that come from the river. That water is going to go someplace else. I personally would prefer that there perhaps be a parking attendant who directed people over to the school. Most of the people come to the reading stand in off hours. that would be a less expensive remedy, and there's already a crosswalk with a blinking light that goes over to the school. There's lots of parking over at the school. A parking person who enforced no parking on Old Pump Road, and the backing in and the backing out and the stopping in the middle of the road to let people off. I was coming in Old Pump Road, somebody in a big pickup truck stopped right in the traveled lane because people don't walk very far. I had a tiny little car and was creeping out to go around them, and the person in the passenger seat ran right in front of me. It's happened to all of us, and nobody wants to be the person who hits them. So I hope that there's that the design review board follows the environmental court's previous ruling, and I would love to see alternatives. I really think parking over at the school might be an alternative. I like the creaming stand. I always felt it was kind of a village well type of situation where people gathered, but the parking and the traffic on Old Pump Road now is just untenable for those of us who live there.
The FEMA since 1998, because they've done, LiDAR, they've done studies. I'm surprised that isn't reflected in the current FEMA maps.
I haven't looked at the FEMA maps.
I understand your concern, but FEMA runs the show when it comes to floodplain.
The other curiosity would be, would a LOMA apply?
Right. I'm just curious why that doesn't match, the 615, because we're supposed to be up to date.
Yes, they are, and so this is all new information. So I mean, it's so we'll have to.
Should have been in the Von Turkovich file.
To clarify for people, can you explain what is used, how this floodplain line was?
Basically, FEMA provides the regional planning office the floodplain elevation line, which basically regional planning office provides us that information with our overlays that we have on our map viewer, and so we rely on that.
And if somebody wants to appeal that, what is that process?
Somebody wants to appeal.
Somebody says that that line should be someplace else.
So there's a map adjustment process, which is called the LOMA. And the engineers go through that process to basically, they'll get the elevation, I believe this is how it works. They get the elevation from FEMA, and they will actually shoot elevation, they will shoot elevations of the existing site, and they'll see if those match. So the FEMA number is 10, and the site is 15. Well, then the site's 5 feet above the floodplain line. We basically looking at a 2-dimensional document in a 3-dimensional world. So that line may not actually be where it is on the ground. That's why you can use or do the LOMA. But that's a process that you need to go through, and the federal agency will adjust that line, and it's an engineering process that I don't know if you're familiar with that. I know your office has done LOMAs before. So whether that's applicable or not, we have to. I mean, like I said, this is new, so I'm not sure what to make of it.
Can you explain again what this hearing was?
This looks like a decision
the environmental court that.
I can just tell you, this looks like a decision that basically Beth appealed some form of decision that the zoning board did dealing with Von Turkovich, and it deals with a 100-year floodplain, if I'm not mistaken, and they said that the appellee, which would be the applicant, needed to redesign because they found the floodplain to be a certain elevation. Does that sound correct, Beth?
Yes, when the plan was approved by the design review board in like 1998, they based it on the FEMA flood line, which the environmental court found to be inaccurate. We were granted summary judgment, which is just judgment on the map and the legal arguments, where that the floodplain was really the 615 line, not the FEMA flood line, which was only an approximation.
The July 18, 2011 base flood elevation is 612 according to FEMA.
Well, again, it was determined to be the 615 line. It's the 100-year floodplain, but we all know it's the 5-year flood.
Thank you very much.
Name is Steve Help. I live at 59 Old Pump Road. The wife spoke earlier. Chris, I'm not sure if you are allowed to put some pictures up, or I have hard copies, but this would.
That was an old email.
No, this is. I have some pictures on here. If you have room.
Well, you're pushing them here.
You're here. Good thing you're here, huh? I think I'm not right. So for the DRB 2025 folder. So these are some floods, if you want to start with the first one. This is looking across our house at right where the parking lot is going to be. There's a tree right there across, but we're looking at one of the floods that happened. That was April 27th, 2011. I'll go to the next one.
You can just do the arrow.
Yep. I know, but I want to make sure I get the right date. I know, but I want to make sure. This is 6/23/25, or is it not correct?
That's okay, and that is. This is the current. This is the latest one we've had. This was 2019.
Where is that?
Again, that's right where that's exactly where your parking lot.
Can you point it on the site plan? I don't know.
So basically, you see this opening here? Okay, there's no trees here, right? Yeah. So you can see there's, so it's approximately in this area here. So right where the driveway. Is this your house right here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it's approximately right there.
I don't know if there's a tree shown there or not.
It's round up. May I point? Yeah. It's would be this this right
here. But that tree is right on the site plan, right there. Don't go down right there.
Oh, that's
where
the tree?
Yes.
No,
That's that tree?
it's basically that.
That's the tree there that is on.
What year was that?
That was the current one. That's 2019. The last time this field flooded. This next one was here's another one. This is, I just took a screenshot showing that one. Okay. Yeah, so it's the same one. And then there's the next one. This is actually Beth might know this.
1995.
95. This was actually a flood that had occurred that year where, and they're out there kayaking in the field.
Yeah.
It's hard to. I'm sorry, it was really hard. I couldn't even get a reference other than the fact that every so often you see a cross. This was that was the winter that year. Again, the field flooded it one more time, and there was ice skating and stuff going on. And this is May of 2013. Again, the tree is like a good reference point for me. Just showing you again water coming up. Obviously, not quite as bad as the 2019.
Can I need to keep this just to download the pictures for the file.
Absolutely.
If you want to come back for it, that way we just have it. Okay, thank you. So yeah, either if you or your wife, if you come back tomorrow, wherever I can give.
Can we just send them to? Can we send them to you instead?
Yeah, they're pretty big. That's why I didn't send them.
I just if I have the fob there, that I can just download to the file, which would be helpful, please.
One other last thing, I
was hoping he was supposed to be here was the fire chief. I have concerns with the entrance of a fire truck getting down into that parking lot. And I think that should be something that, you know, the emergency vehicle, stuff like that. That's
It is coming in.
We're grabbing here like sardines. I'm Courtney Tomato, legally Newman. I'm Dan's wife. So we live at 41 Old Pump or 3 LLC. Love Palmer, it's truly a day. So I voice the same concerns as many of my neighbors. I do bring a little bit of a unique viewpoint to last summer I experienced, I'm a paramedic with Ethics Rescue. Last summer I experienced trying to get down the road to access a patient who had called 911, and due to the parking on the road, I was unable to get past cars. So at that point, first responders made contact with the patient. We did figure it out. There was no ill outcome from that, but it's a 50-50 shot. You never know. I don't know if any of you are first responders or if you know any first responders, but we're already thinking about a ton of things when we're on our way to a patient, then having to navigate people lollygagging in the road or waiting for others to get out of their parking spot or being stopped in the road or parked in the road. These are all things that it's unfair to put on my fellow first responders and myself to have to consider. I agree that this location is probably not suitable for the amount of individuals that truly enjoy Palmer's, the amount of customers. We've already had a child in this town get hit and killed by a car. And a few weeks ago, I was doing CPR on someone in the middle of the road who also got hit and killed by a car. This is my home. I do not want to associate it with tragedy. So I hope that whatever you guys come up with, you truly keep in mind that there needs to be every single safety precaution put in place to protect the community members of our community, the neighbors on the road, the children of other communities who are here visiting, the animals. I have 2 kids myself. I know this sounds like a sob story, but it is the reality of a first responder. And I hope that you will keep that in consideration with whatever plan you have going forward.
My name is Leslie Dunn. I live at 233 Old Pump Road. And to build upon to focus my neighbors' concerns with the safety and both pedestrian and vehicle and emergency vehicle and delivery vehicle impact on Old Pump Road. 45 of our neighbors have signed this petition requesting an updated and valid traffic study so that we can figure out the impact on Old Pump Road moving forward. There was a traffic study done in 2023, and particular day that study was done, there were no cars parked on Old Pump Road, and that study came out with flying honors. However, we have a lived experience that's very different than the outcome of that study. So in addition to the traffic study, we would request that the Palmers explain how they will stop their customers from parking on the road, from congregating on the road, from stopping to let customers out of their car I mean, it's human nature to do the kinds of things we're talking about, stopping, how the Palmers will manage their customers from stopping in the car and getting online, manage delivery vehicles, emergency vehicles, and regular cars entering Route 15 safely, and address the safety concerns about kids in that very small area with increased pedestrian traffic. So I'd like to submit this to the board.
You already received it.
Okay. Oh, we have some extra signatures. There's 45 signatures of Old Pump Road neighbors.
All right, some were Essex residents and. So, right,
Maybe one or two.
right. Well,
Yes, yeah, okay, but everybody's on Old Pump Road.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Owen Foster. I live at 214 Cardinal Crossing. I oppose the proposal, like many of our neighbors, for safety issues. First, we're trying to find a solution, but there's been a ready solution available for years that hasn't been taken, which concerns me. There could be people handling parking tonight or yesterday or 5 years ago. There's not. And we see what happens. I've nearly struck people. My kids have nearly been struck. We're trying to find a solution, but it's a square peg in a round hole. This entry point is not the right entry point for that kind of volume of cars and traffic and people. It's an old country dirt road. And even if you put a parking lot in there, having everyone turn off of Route 15, it's just not a wide enough place to handle hundreds and hundreds of cars in a small amount of time. So I oppose it. I don't think it's the right solution. I think there should be solutions already in place and they haven't been taken advantage of. I do agree with some of the neighbors that if you stuck it in the school, that'd be more appropriate. You already have the space. There's no floodplain. You're not going to have water running down to other people's homes. And it would decrease the traffic onto a small dirt road. It's also a spot where the school buses drop children. So at this time of year, when you have high traffic, you're having a school bus stop on Route 15. What happens when a car stops on 15, the car behind it stops, but the one behind that often does not. And they'll swerve around it. It happens when you cross the school over there. And it happens here at Palmer Lane when the buses stop. That creates a real safety issue. On top of it, when you have children walking down to that kind of volume, cars pulling in and out in every which way, it creates additional safety risks. My kids have been exposed to that, and I have too. So we oppose it. We love Palmer's as well. It's a wonderful store, wonderful business, but it's a square peg in a round hole. And that's a fundamental problem we're trying to solve here, and you can't. Thank you.
So we can pick up the map. Where does the school bus drop off kids? Where does the school bus drop off?
Right there.
It's dropping them off. Which way is the school bus going? It goes this way. So it pulls over and the kids get out and go where? They go around the front of the bus.
It stops on Route 15. And
They get off the right side of the bus, right? So
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, right here.
And so lights are flashing and people are going around the bus too?
I mean, not every time, but yes.
They go around the bus?
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
Here and here. If you stop here, I walk my kids to school every morning for years. And when you stop here to cross, the first car will stop, you stop. But the second one doesn't stop and goes around it or on their phone or whatever else. It's the same thing with the school bus. The school bus stops, the next car stops, the one behind it does not always stop.
You're stupid.
You can't. In this location with that kind of volume, adding the volume that you have with additional parking is a risk that I'm concerned about.
So what do the kids do? Do they stay on the north side of the road or do they cross on the south side of the road?
It's really bad with north and south. Which way is up?
Well, north right here is the arrow. See up here? That's the north arrow.
Okay. Yeah, my kids walk. Well, actually, they often stop at Palmer's. But they walk. They walk. They walk here.
So the school bus doesn't go down Old Pump Road. It doesn't serve any of the kids down Old Pump Road. There's no school bus service that goes across the bridge and.
Yes, there is.
It does.
Two different ways. So there's the Essex side, that's different. The Jericho side, in the morning it goes down, and in the afternoon it drops here.
So in the afternoon, it doesn't go any further than that.
Correct. So it's, I don't know how many kids. 6 kids.
Not like a school board issue.
School board issue. Not many, but consideration. Anyone else in person?
Sandra Limoges. Sorry, Sandra Limoges. I live at 399 Old Pump Road. And I've been an educator my entire life, 40 years. And to have something as wonderful as a creamy in a small town become a crisis situation, it was just unfathomable. At the end of the school year, we had children coming across from Jericho elementary school to get creamies. It's a wonderful experience. Yet we are just waiting for a crisis. The number one issue is not parking, in my opinion. It is safety. And I don't believe a parking lot is going to resolve safety. And I do believe that the problem will get worse because I've been documenting for the select board my experience driving up and down Old Pump Road since March. With the weather changing, we are looking at 7 or 8 months out of the year that on a beautiful day, it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So safety is number one, especially connected to something so positive. They're drawing in people and children, and that's great. And I want them to continue to do a great business, but it can't be in this location. It is that drastic. And I'm happy to show you my emails that I've been sending to the select board for months with my experience. And I don't think this is going to solve that. I absolutely believe it's the wrong location for this business. And the other piece is quality of life, those that live here. We love where we live. We have chosen this spot. And the stress and the anguish that's been created is real. I mean, I'm shaking just being here tonight because I feel so passionately about this. It's not about the Palmers. It's about what's happening with their business taking off, which is great. We all feel that way, you know, but it's just not the right location. So I really hope we keep safety number one, not necessarily parking. I don't think there's a resolution if you're bringing in that many cars and that many people. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly Lamonda, Old Pump Road,
Can you give me the address?
606.
606, thank you.
I wrote down a few things so that I wouldn't forget. My understanding is that the Palmer Lane Maple was originally approved primarily as an online maple product business, and that the sale of creamies came later as an added feature. While the creamy stand has clearly been successful and popular, it was not part of the original business plan. For years, residents of Old Pump Road have voiced concerns about parking and pedestrian safety, only to feel dismissed, both directly by the Palmers and indirectly by the Jericho Select Board. The proposed parking lot seems to acknowledge at last that there is a safety issue. However, I believe the current proposal does not adequately address the underlying problems and has not been thoroughly considered, especially considering that there is documented flood waters that show where the parking lot is now proposed. It is not appropriate for the entrance of a large and growing business to be on an unpaved residential street, popular for walking, running, and biking even among non-residents. The entrance to the parking lot will essentially create another unsafe intersection. Palmer Lane Maple has clearly outgrown its current location, and I would ask what other business in Jericho has 54 plus or more parking spaces. This is no longer a small-scale home-based operation. If the proposed parking lot were full, you know, we're talking hundreds of people with dogs, small children could be crossing the street, waiting in line, eating creamies on a very small lawn. As it stands, the lack of adequate outdoor space already causes customers to spill into the roadway, creating a serious hazard on an already busy street. I urge the board to take a closer look at whether this location is still appropriate for the current scale of the business and whether the proposed parking lot truly addresses or potentially exacerbates the safety and traffic concerns. Thank you.
Austin, person with a comment? If not, let's, is there any comments on that?
Let's, so if anybody online has got a comment, I need you to raise your hand so I can admit you. Please. If not, that's fine. Doesn't look like it.
What is it?
No.
Okay.
Okay, I wrote down.
Okay.
Pretty sure of the questions.
Okay.
I don't know how, traditionally what ends up happening is the questions that the applicant can answer, they answer. And so whether the applicant's able to answer them or not, then we try to answer them. Sometimes the comments are just comments and there isn't an answer. So I didn't write down everybody's last name, but I'm just going to say your first name, Jim from 222. He was concerned that he wanted to make sure that the flood issues were not going to increase or impact his property and generate more water towards him. So I don't, you have an answer, Carl? Or I mean, it's we've got new information here with regards to the floodplain line where, so I think any sort of flood issues are really kind of hard to, in my opinion, would be hard to give a hard answer to, because whether it is 615, whether it is 612, whether it is 608, or whether it is 622, you know, we just don't know. It's a moving target because of this new information. So we would have to ensure that we have the actual correct height and double check that.
It's very crucial because I've had floods over these pictures. I just want to say the water on the worst I've seen comes up within 2 feet of my home. So if you impact that, you're going to make a huge effort on my home.
Yeah. Okay. So you had a question with regards to the address number 87. The reason it's 87 is that's the parcel address and that's what we use since it's treated, since it's shown as one parcel. That's why, I mean, the access is still proposed for Old Pump Road. Whether that would get a different 911 address number is possible to the fire department or emergency, the rescue squad need to go someplace. It would probably it wouldn't be designated as 87. They'd be designated as probably a different number because of the curb cut. So that answers that question. The proposal isn't to access Route 15, it's to access Old Pump, so that's what we're reviewing. Hans had quite a few comments with regards to pedestrians. You know, it's hard to control where people go, and you know, we tend to think people know not to walk in the middle of the road, but maybe they don't. There was a comment of a form of a barrier fence. Oops, where the hell did that come from? Nope, that's not it. Approximately in this area to create a separation. That would be something that Palmer's could consider. And then he had some additional comments with regards to number of creamies, 3 hours peak emergency vehicles, and those were his comments. Irene, at 59 Old Pump. Basically, it's just sort of the daily impacts that they're suffering, and the stress and the invasiveness that it's causing them, that they're not appreciative of, and they feel that parking lot is not really going to alleviate those concerns. I guess, did I get that kind of correct?
It would, if there was no parking allowed on the road, it would alleviate that particular problem, but it would still be,
right.
you know,
Well,
just our quality of life is really going to be impacted. You know, we'll still be able to hear driving and horns beeping, you know, like remotes and stuff.
Well, the known intent basically is to remove the current street parking and have it park in the parking lot. So there's going to need to be some form of mechanism that provides enforcement or directive on that. And the town's responsible for what the town owns, and that's the town road. So the town can have certain mechanisms in place there. What those are, I don't have an answer to it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really want to live across the parking lot. Just to add to my comments, the parking lot is not at the character of the neighborhood.
So the idea is to take the existing issues and hopefully maybe this helps lower the impact. And at 41, same type of issues with regards to the magnitude of the use. He has more of a direct impact because of the proposed access is right across from his house. You know, if it was possible to move the access. That's a design consideration, which maybe the Palmers would be amenable to. I mean, if we end up getting rid of these spaces here, we move the access to this area here, or something along those lines. Maybe that's a solution. I'm not sure. That provided us with a court decision. This needs to be reviewed, and it needs to be some form of analysis to see if 615 is the hard fast number or not. This is new information, so it's kind of hard to address. Steve, excuse me, provided us with a bunch of pictures that we saw and the water impacts in the approximate area. Courtney from 41, which is Ann's wife, she spoke of being a paramedic and the adverse issue of trying to access on Old Pump Road at one point, as well as the need to really pay attention to safety because everybody can get behind that. So Leslie Dunn requested that through the petition a traffic study be done. She did reference a 2023 traffic study. I have not seen that. I'm not aware of it, so I can't really speak to what that says. I'll have to try to access that. Owen Foster from Cardinal Crossing. He was saying having people handle the parking and directing parking and sort of managing that is a solution. And that he is, is Owen still here? No, I believe he said he was opposed to the proposal. So I think that's what he said. Sandra, 399 Old Pump, is basically is safety. She's been documenting information for the select board, and she basically feels that the nature of the business and its location is the wrong location, and it shouldn't be there. Kelly from 606 Old Pump. Safety is a main issue. Wants to make sure that she doesn't, I guess, Kelly, if you're still here, that you feel that the proposal does not address the safety issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Okay. You asked about large parking lots. The JKIT has a larger parking lot than this is proposed for, so that'll give you somewhat of a gauge. And I'm told that the Jericho Market has a larger parking lot space-wise, but it's hard to get because it wraps around the building, so it's not in one spot. And does the parking lot address or worsen the current issues? That was sort of the questioning based. So, I also commented, I really think that the fire department needs to. Right. Make sure they have access to everything. Right, so Steve, basically they require 10% grade, and that's what's proposed. So 24 feet, as long as it supported a 40,000-pound vehicle, that would probably be acceptable to them.
And the turn access there would be okay?
I'm sorry, I can't.
The turn access, like to be able to.
The radius accesses?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, they're gonna have to submit a curb cut, so basically the highway department's gonna be looking at those accesses, those curb accesses and the radiuses. So I'd assume, I don't wanna make the assumption, but that could be, if this were to be approved, then we could condition it that the radiuses and everything be approved per the required turn radiuses for fire departments or fire safety accesses. So that could get covered. That's what I had for comments.
Do you mind if I make a correction to what you said, Chris? I interpreted what.
If you can come up here, please.
I interpreted what Owen Foster was saying.
Now so we get you on the microphone, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
My interpretation of what Owen Foster was saying is that, controlling patterns of where people are walking, etc., could have been put in place years ago and haven't been. So that my impression of what he was saying is that that's not going to work.
What's not going to work?
Control, having people out there controlling where folks are going. I think that's what he was trying to say.
Okay.
We proposed that a number of years ago and it hasn't been put in place.
Right, and you're saying that Owen didn't think it was going to work if it was put in place. Is that correct?
It could have been put in place.
Yeah, and I don't want to deal with what could have happened because.
Okay, I don't know what he meant by that part, but I just wanted to be correct that I don't think he said that would be helpful.
Okay.
I think you
Can I ask you a question? So you've been doing these observations, right? And you've looked at this, and I don't know if it's today, the first day you've seen this proposal, but based on your observation, are there some ways that this makes the situation worse?
Yes.
And how does it make the situation worse?
Well, first of all, I do believe their business is going to grow. March through October, we're talking 7 to 8 months out of the year. And if our weather continues to change, we're going to have more warm weather. Their business will grow. We're bringing more people to the area and they have to cross the road. I mean, that's my biggest concern is people. People. And
your concern is that you put the parking lot in more people come, it's more people crossing.
Well, they're also the best maple creamy in Vermont, according to me, and I think a lot of people agree. So it's going to get busier, and people are going to be injured. And again, the quality of life for everyone sitting here has been negatively impacted.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, I missed my chance to make a comment. Am I able to make a comment?
Wait. We got somebody.
Hello?
Yeah, hello. How can we help you?
Oh, hi. I just wanted to make a quick comment. My name is Elizabeth Foster, or Liz Foster, if you guys know me. I definitely know the Palmers.
Elizabeth,
Yep.
where do you live?
Sorry, I live at 214 Cardinal Crossing. I'm married to Owen Foster, who spoke earlier.
Thank you. Yep. Okay.
So we love Palmers so much. In fact, so much that we even have to limit ourselves, although I don't think my daughters are limiting themselves to 1 creamy a week. But so that is just, we love this, that it's at the end of our street. And what I really wanted to say is it's not lost on us that you're really bringing so much happiness to the community. Last year, I was telling my parents were in town and they love Palmer's as well. And I said, geez, it's been really crowded and kids are running out in the street. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but it can happen. And just as I said that, a child ran right in front of my car, My dad screamed at the top of his lungs, and I think somebody heard because right after somebody was directing traffic, and that made a huge difference. So I just wanted to just say that it's not just what we're the quality of life of the people that live on Old Pump Road. It is safety. Safety is so important. And I'm not sure if the parking lot will be the answer. It's certainly a solution, but I definitely know that eyes on the crowds and directing it would help. So I'm just putting it out there, and that's it. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I'm sorry I was late to the thing. Thank you.
We did close public comment, but we did close public comment.
Apologies.
I, so the next stage would be whether we close.
So the board's got
hearing.
two, yeah, the board has two options.
I don't know how we can close it without the elevation discussion.
Right. I don't necessarily, I don't disagree. So my recommendation to the board, would be to, continue the hearing. We need to continue to a time certain date. So we can address, and basically the board should figure out, when we continue the hearing, we're continuing it basically on a limited scope. What that scope, and what the scope is, and then the public can, decide if they want to participate in that continuation or not.
That doesn't mean that, this, everybody understand, that doesn't mean that's the only issue. I mean, that's the only issue that we're gonna continue the discussion, have more input on. The rest of it, we've heard, we understand, we have the rules, but I think we would normally close the hearing, but then we couldn't ask more questions, we had to make a decision. And I don't think we're in a position to make a decision based on the
Did you get a copy of this
question.
decision? Yes. Okay. So basically,
Should I make a motion?
Well, I just want to see where everybody else is.
I agree with that.
Can you clarify what the next step would be then?
we're going to go through that. We'll clarify that after this been taken care of.
I'll make the motion.
Well, hold on. Did Paul want to?
Can I comment?
Sure.
Am I able to do that? So, the main issue why we're here is for safety, right? We've heard the concerns from residents over the years about the parking on the road, that it narrows the roadway, emergency vehicles can't get through, the kids are, kids running around. So for us, this plan is the best solution for safety. We have tried working with the select board over the years. I have made numerous suggestions on how we can slow traffic down, calm the traffic coming off 15 onto Old Pump Road. Some people will go 35 miles an hour around that corner and not stop and just keep going. I've brought it to the attention. I've asked the select board to reduce the speed limit. I've asked them to put some sort of island in the middle that, the trucks could run over, the tilted curbing, to make sure that people are slowing down to make the turn. I've offered, I see them in parking lots. They put the posts, the flexible posts, which you screw into the ground. You could put those in the middle of the road to slow people down and divide the road. Anytime you take a road and you make it narrow, it automatically slows people down. If you make it wider, it speeds traffic up. All right. So, the thought was to get the road to more delineated. The apron hadn't been painted in years until we were hounding the select board to paint the apron with the yellow line and the fog lines, just to delineate that it's a road, people. It's not, your playground to go running out in the road. Those lines don't go to the end of the apron. I wish they would. There's been no effort on the select board's part to help calm traffic. I've suggested to put in speed humps like they've got in front of the Jericho Center store. Put a speed hump there with a crossing. So, you know, part of our proposal is we are creating a path specifically for pedestrians, and it would dump them out right onto our property so that it is one direct path across the road. Perfect spot for a speed hump. But that in conjunction with some other traffic calming things, the speed is what kills, right? You get bumped at 2 miles an hour, you're not going to get killed, right? So those things, you know, I think we've tried to work with, we've worked with the select board on trying to do these things, and we've kept that as the priority. You know, that's the forefront of our thought in doing this. You know, parking attendants, legally, you can't have people in the road. We've done it. We're not supposed to. It's against the law unless you've been trained and you've got, you know, insurance, and, you know, there's all kinds of legalities with that. So, you know, we have tried to, you know, mitigate all those issues as much as possible. But I wanted to address, that's the number one thing why we feel that the parking lot is the best solution, is for the safety of everybody. Residents, patrons. So I just wanted to address that. Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So we need to, before you make the motion, we should probably figure out a date, because we need to do time certain. Yeah, I don't have my phone, calendar, camera, whatever the hell, everything else that's there. But
The 9th is the second Wednesday, the 23rd is the fourth Wednesday.
okay. So I'm available both of those dates.
I am not available on the 23rd.
I'm not sure. Are you guys available on the 9th? Available. Justin, you're available on the 9th?
Yeah. Does that give us enough time?
Well, we need to look at this. We basically, Carl's gonna have to work verifying the elevation. What the true FEMA holds out. Carl will have to figure out, you know, is a Loma applicable in this situation? You know, and I guess it's a question for, you know, can you do that in 2 weeks?
I'll reach out to FEMA tomorrow.
Okay. So I mean, if you think the 9th works for you guys, because I mean it's worth the applicant will have to, you know, do to provide to counter this information, and whether this information is still, you know, valid and accurate. I guess we will learn. And there's a few things, you know, we can do from a staff standpoint that see what FEMA has for available elevations and things like that. But it's going to be really repetitive, but it's all coming from the same place.
Okay, so I think we should go ahead.
So I'll make a motion that we adjourn this to July 9th for further discussion.
We'll take one guy.
Sorry, who seconded it?
Go ahead. I'll second that.
Okay, so the meeting will be continued to July 9th. The first agenda item was continuing from business. You guys want to vote?
Aye.
I'm in the office for a little bit tomorrow. I've got a time clock meeting. It's going to take me a couple hours, but maybe I'll touch base with you first thing in the morning. You can.
And thank you to everyone.
Add about a few things. We'll keep playing away.
I'll send you the email that goes out to people. I'll copy it.
Yeah, copy and all that sort of stuff. That way it's all together.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So we go through items.
Excuse us, can you guys move out? We have more items. Please go outside and talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, so Doug, let me just, I'll pull up the, we pull up the file.
Thank you for your patience. Keep on the clock.
Well, is probably the revised site plan, Doug?
It is it has 52225 in the corner. Well, something to do with the right of way. Yeah. 52225.
Oh, 522, yeah, okay, this is the right one then.
So actually, Summit Engineering is now Horizons Engineering, but so when we come in for final, we'll see Horizon. But we're in transition.
Hey, you're up, Doug.
Okay, this is my name is Doug Hewitt. I'm from Horizons Engineering, representing Martha Prince, the owner. And the plan in front of us is for a new 2.8 acre lot. It's going to be subdivided off the plus or minus 48 acres that Martha owns, and leaving a 45.1 acre lot. The current lot it's accessed off of Orr Road through a 60-foot right of way. And it will receive 120 feet of right of way frontage to meet the roadway requirement. It's designed to have a proposed, I think it's proposed as large as a 6-bedroom house. We've already gotten our water supply and wastewater disposal permit. So we got ahead of ourselves doing that, and now we're looking for the town. We're going to be coming through, we're looking for sketch tonight. And based on comments given tonight, we're going to submit an application to go straight to final. I expect that to come in the near future. And that's about it.
Just from a history standpoint, so the board knows that the lot below, there were a few questions. We went through the same process below, off of Orr Road, probably in 2023, where basically was another lot was subdivided off the larger parcel. So this will be the second lot divided off.
Questions about the turnaround back then and fire the turnaround at the end.
Right there.
Where is that turnaround now?
That's it, right there where the cursor is.
Where does Orr Road?
I'm sorry?
Where does Orr Road end?
Sorry? Orr Road ends approximately up in this area here, where the town maintains. The town owns a right of way, and basically the access off the end of the maintained part provides access to the Trotter, the Sheridans, and the Climbs. And right now, so there's 3 houses off that, and it built to a driveway spec. But it is a 60-foot right of way that the town controls. And the new access for the new lot basically is over this existing house lot. They provided Martha a 60-foot right of way to access this proposed back lot. And it's pretty straightforward. There are a couple wetlands that are shown on the map, and the buffers are all the improvements are outside the buffer area, so there is no wetland impacts.
And it looks like a pretty steep, is that really that steep there?
Those are 1 foot contours. It's not very steep.
Oh, okay, I see the buffer.
So I mean, the other thing that, you know, we would look for is that they would develop a plat, they would develop a lot, they'll show the, you know, the building envelope. They've already, you know, delineated the wetland buffer in this area. There really isn't a buffer existing here because of the nature of the class of the wetland. They're staying outside of it. They will, I know that Martha's applied for a curb cut permit on Orr Road. The highway supervisor is, I guess it's in process of review. Traditionally, what happens there is, well, traditionally what ends up happening is they give essentially a provisional saying, okay, here's where you're going to locate it. We don't want to see this size culvert, these types of things that get scratched in. And then when it's all said and done, before the house gets a CO, they usually get a final sign off from the highway department for the curb cut, make sure that it was built properly.
So what is that? Is that open property? Is that open land?
I'm sorry?
Is this forested or open land?
Oh, there's a tree line in there. There's a couple groups of trees in the right of way, and then there's a tree line that goes through the tree line here, Joe. Yeah.
But this is not a ridge top. This is not.
No.
And who would be able to see this? Where would this be viewed? Who else would be able to see the house?
Probably just the neighbors.
Which ones? The neighbors down below?
No, the neighbors. You're not it's pretty well hidden. It's going to be the people in the Sick and Smith lot right there, and then the Kleins in the house.
Is this plan that you have up on the town website?
It should be. It should be. I mean, it was provided to the person who does the downloads or puts them on the website. I assume it is. I never check our website.
I think there is something out of date on the town website. I'm not sure if the Klein lot is there yet.
When are you not seeing that?
So I see where the wetland buffer is, but I don't see like the writing telling it. I can't go back to the town website now because
So this was a delineated wetland right there?
Yeah, it shows it in my map, but I just don't have the writing. What's the date, Chris, on this plan in the bottom right corner?
5/22.
Yeah, the one that was posted is 3/30.
March 30.
Okay. So basically, okay.
Well, there's a March 30 is the parent there was a revision for the right of way for lot 3 added. The only difference you may go back to the one without the revision and see, and I'm not sure where the right of way. How the right of way.
I've got that plan on file. I can pull it up if you want to see.
No, it's fine. I was just.
The reality is this is sketch review, so there's no formal decision. There's any sort of recommendations or what the board wants the applicant to be aware or what they may want to see.
The right of way, the property with between the two property lines and the septic that goes over the property line. Is the right of way there intended for access?
This was simply because there's 45 more acres.
Yeah.
It's with no plans of open land that Martha owns.
Yeah.
And this is her lot, and she owns the rest. Yep. And she simply wanted to have, since there was some dispute about how their parents left this right of way to the brother that owned this lot, it's now there will be no, because it's actually going to be owned property, that Martha will own this and grant for the road frontage, grant them a permanent right of way up to that point. And then the soils, as it had it, is what would be the best soil. This is where the soils are. When you go down here into the woods, the soils will work. So that's where I designed the leach field, and so it's going to be. It's permitted with an easement.
So is the intention, I'm just curious what the purpose of that right away is. back to lot two, and is the intention that another driveway could be extended off of that to lot two, but then there's a septic that's coming into the right of way?
My understanding, Martha's here, but it's my understanding that there's no intention of any future development coming in from the side, but it's simply access.
You can get at the public hearing, and you can get that as testimony, we can have that as finding. I mean, my one worry or curiosity is if this right of way is left for means of access, means in and out, are you nullifying that by putting a septic there, because you traditionally don't drive over septic? Right. And so if it is intended for access, then maybe the septic needs, which one's out, the septic or the access?
That's a design issue. That's why I'm asking the question, if there was an intent.
Well, I mean, if I were to, there can be I can put a driveway 10 feet from a septic. So, and there's about 35 feet left there. If somebody wanted to run a four-wheeler or a tractor or something like that around the edge of the septic, that could be done without damaging the septic.
Yeah, so we can just get, at the hearing, we can just get testimony and findings to that effect.
I just want to ask that question. Can you talk about clearing limits and what's being cleared versus what's already cleared? I know that there's a curb cut that's proposed on a road there, and what kind of clearing needs to happen there and or on the property that this right of way is going through.
I haven't thought too much about what is going to be cleared. I figured it's going to be for a standard house and a yard around it, understanding that you have to honor the buffer, and or get a permit for doing something in that buffer. So the tree line, I can tell you that here's so the tree line is here. It's kind of a generous tree line because it's of the crown of the trees. There's a lot of mature trees in here, so it's not dense woods. My guess is that you'd have to, there's going to be some standard clearing that has to be done around it for the house and the driveway, and so it would be something like in there.
So that would be
when we're always close to buffer, especially when the buffer's down, right?
So I think basically is when you come for the final, it's just if you have a clearing limit plan or better, better defined, that would be that would be good, because what the intent of this is basically is to sort of say, here are questions or concerns. Can you give us the information so we can do an evaluation, to get it over the hump for an approval. So it's clearing limits. It's if it's the right of way in the septic, if that's an issue, just those types of things. If there are other points, that's fine. With regards to the curb cut, there will be whatever the highway department, highway supervisor will have his input with regards to what needs to be removed from an access standpoint as well.
Show the setbacks for the property either.
We don't have a building envelope yet, but that means yeah. So I guess the list, Doug, is cutting limits, building envelope, and if there is any sort of need or consideration with regards to the septic and that 60-foot right of way, that's fine. And then obviously the legals, but that's pretty standard for final when you go to file the plot as well. So that capture everything?
I'm curious about utilities. So we've got water, there's a well, we've got the septic, and then power. I don't know where the power line is. It runs up Moore Road there, so it'd be the buried power up the drive, right?
You require that it's buried?
Yep.
Okay.
That's where we go.
And clearing at the road, there's a lot of really nice mature maples, and I think the idea is that we'll.
Is that wetland right by the driveway where you come in, that class 3?
That's a class 3 well.
Yep. Okay.
So we're allowed to.
Yep.
What were you saying about the maples?
It's just the idea, Martha, do you know that you staked out, are there any trees that need to be cut where you staked out the driveway?
Yes, there'll be some.
Okay.
In the right of way, well,
It's really just the buffer of the road. It's what's in the right.
yes, there are trees that will come out of there. Where I've got the stake in right now is where the smallest ones, there's like a really nice maple on the end that's healthy. Most of them aren't healthy in there, but there's one we'd like to save that's up towards the Strang property. So the buffer, so I've got the stake in the center on that 15. And it's the, you know, it's low lying stuff of the whole bunch. So those are gonna go. Through the right of way, there'll be some that have to come out just because you got to navigate through there. And there is a 10-foot from the south side of the 60-foot right of way headed north. There's in the deed, I have to leave a 10-foot buffer strip in there, so that it has to go up there. To answer your question on the strip that comes down through, is that if I want to cut wood for firewood and do whatever, down in the woods, I would be able to get a pickup truck to go out through that right of way. And I'm not understanding what you were saying about clearing limits. About clearing limits
regarding the building.
On the particular lot of how much clearing, and why does that make a difference?
I was the one who asked it. Well, typically when you have building envelopes, you're denoting how much of existing area would be cleared. If there was a large amount of the area that was proposed to be cleared, certain permits could be triggered.
Well, they can't clear the buffer zone, so that's what I do building envelope.
So, and I'm asking the question because Doug just doesn't show it on the plan here, and that's been generally delineated on the building envelope. On the final plan.
Yeah, for
I
final,
understand this
for
is
preliminary.
that's why I'm asking the question.
Right. Well, my big thing is that going in there, since I burned firewood, I've actually marked a bunch of the beach and that kind of stuff that have the disease into it. And I went in there and I was going to clear a lot of that lot out and burn it. I think I can. Yeah. My land, I think I can.
Yeah, it's the short answer is when the lot is approved and there's the building envelope, and then there's sort of set cutting limits within that envelope that allow the house to go, whether the house is going where it's proposed or if, you know, wherever it may be. Then that's what the board is approving. So if all of a sudden the house is here and you're going to put it down here, then obviously we know the cutting limits are going to probably be different because you're going to cut around here, not down here. But if you move the house, you're probably cutting down here, not up here. The idea is basically you don't go in and cut the whole site. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
Right.
So right now, Martha, if there are trees there, since you haven't sold and done anything that you can get access to and you want to go in and get them, you can.
Are there any natural resource overlays?
Just the wetland, just the wetlands.
That's a wetland in the upper left, that's the curve line that we talk about that.
So this curved line where the cursor is, Jeff, that's the buffer, that dotted line.
What kind of buffer?
Wetland buffer.
It's 50 feet outside the.
Yeah, this is the wetland area, it's a straight line.
That's the buffer, okay.
That's a class 2, Doug.
That's a class 2.
Everybody's got a class.
Offer the public as well.
Any public comment?
I just have one question about the curb cut and just the, what's the required width for curb cuts for private driveways?
I don't know off the top of my head.
B71.
Yeah, is that 24 feet? I can't remember.
30.
Yeah, I don't have
If
it
you
memorized.
email me tomorrow, I can get you the answer. I just don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
On the DRB website, that section of the document, like, wasn't probably,
Right, so the curb cut is actually handled through the administrative office, not the zoning office. And so I see the applications that are administrative. And so maybe I should know, but I don't. So, but if you have my email, right? Yep. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you send me an email, I can tell you what the proposed, and it's gonna be sort of a range, what's this?
It's a 30-foot radius.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not gonna make it up.
Okay. That's the board. Okay. And close this part of the hearing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
Over an hour.
I make that motion.
You have something?
Thank you very much, board.
Is there so if I can get people to remove themselves, I'm gonna stop the recording. Oh, you want a motion to close, or we did, you make a motion to close? All right. And Justin seconded it again. Okay, everything. Okay, great. 5-0.
In my head.
So at 9:12.